hatred. Dual Mephistos, more commonly known as Mephisto, is one of the prime evils in the Diablo series, with his appearances ranging from the many novelizations to the second and fourth games, and now will be the main antagonist for the DLC, Vessel of Hatred, where Neyrelle travels to the distant jungles of Nahatu, seeking shelter in the tomb of Akarat. With the soul stone Mephisto resides in secretes a black substance that kills anything that comes into contact with it. It seems the further Neyrelle travels into the heart of the overgrown jungles, she leaves behind a deathly trail of corruption. In this video, we seek the knowledge of who Mephisto is, the history behind such a cruel and disturbing entity, and so much more. Like his brothers and the lesser evils, Mephisto had spawned from one of the 7 heads of the ancient prime evil, Taphomet, where the great dragon's body upon its destruction had given birth to the realms of hell. Mephisto's domain had been the realm of hatred, where he took great delight in seeing the many demons plot and scheme against their adversaries. In the beginning of the prime evil's reign, Mephisto, joined by his 2 brothers, Diablo and Baal, waged war on the lesser evils known as Belial, Andariel, Duriel, and Asmodan, where they would fight for dominance. When the eternal conflict had begun between angels and demons, between light and dark, unlike his brothers and the lesser evils, Mephisto had operated within the shadows, rather than leading an army into an open battlefield. However, this didn't mean that the war wouldn't bring battles to his domain, as it was when a cell of angels had managed to find their way to Mephisto's lair, where the angels engaged in open combat against the Lord of Hatred himself, with many of their attacks managing to cut deep into him, with Mephisto's blood leaking onto the floor, which led into the creation of the magma demons. Eventually, the angels had cut their losses and retreated from his lair, before their screams joined the chorus of tortured souls within his realm. In other moments of the war, Mephisto and his brothers managed to push the angels back to the high heavens, but when victory drew near, they lost sight of their goals, allowing ambition to cloud their judgment, which gave the opposition the opening they needed to strike back and push the demons back into the shadows. Mephisto's cruelty knew no bounds. He reveled in delivering pain onto not just angels but his fellow demons as well, especially those close to him, such as his daughter Lilith, who eventually betrayed him when she allied herself with Inarius in stealing the World Stone. When that event arose, Mephisto immediately saw the angels retreating from the battle outside of the Pandemonium Fortress. Being more of the strategist of the brothers, he ordered that they hold off their attack until he can assess the situation.
Cursed am I to lead an army of the blind. They do not perceive that the angels are fleeing this realm, and the ones they find are merely trapped or lost. A great change is upon us. Withdraw from the fields, my brothers. Some battles can only be won with words.
However, Baal, in being the more impatient of the 3, decided to go against Mephisto's wishes and had stormed the fortress to see the World Stone no longer present. This halted the eternal conflict, and eventually the primevals had learned of Sanctuary's existence, and they began to corrupt the people to serve their meticulous needs, coming to these men as compassionate deities, where they came to know Mephisto by the title of the Spirit of Love, love being the direct opposite to hatred. Together the 3 had corrupted the citizens of Sanctuary into cultists who wished to worship these figures, unknowing of their true ambitions. Eventually Inarius caught wind of this and had established the Cathedral of Light to put an end to this new order, which began the Sin War. What started as a religious conflict with 2 sides pulling at the humanity of Sanctuary's inhabitants erupted into a bloody war, with the end goal being the dominance of influence over humanity. Once the war was at an end and Anarius had been captured by the archangels, Mephisto had been joined by the Angerous Council, who offered a pact with them that no side will intervene with the destiny of mankind, that it will be theirs to choose. They also agreed that Mephisto would brand his mark onto the Cathedral of Light to seal the gateway to their realm. In exchange, Anarius would be handed over to Mephisto to suffer for his crimes against both parties, which is a pact that Mephisto took great delight in accepting, as Anarius would be like a new project for him to twist within his disturbed design, which is something Anarius was indeed fearful of, as Mephisto was notorious for the pain he displayed onto others, with the screams filling the halls of his realm like symphonies of torment. In Mephisto's design, he had placed Anarius in chains before he slowly but surely tore the wings from his back, like he was peeling the layers of his mind away. But this was only the beginning, as Mephisto wanted, no, he needed Anarius to see his misshapen form, so he placed mirrors all around him and then tore the eyelids off of him, so he would have no choice but to stare at the damage done to him, as if Mephisto's design had been so Anarius could see the damage he had caused to everyone around him, including the Nephilim he dictated on Sanctuary. Truly a horrific punishment. Even in Mephisto's design, it was forbidden that Anarius received the mercy of death. In the ages that followed, the lesser evils grew tired of the dictatorship of the prime evils, believing they had forsaken the eternal conflict in their gaze upon humanity, so they began to revolt against them. Despite the efforts made by Mephisto, the lesser evils had been successful and had pushed them out of hell to join those they had been so fond of, joining humanity in their plight. The banishment had also caused the prime evils to enter Sanctuary without a physical form, so they would need to possess someone within the wilderness or the many settlements, which was exactly what they had done. However, the human form would twist and reshape while being possessed by the lords of hell, with the appearance of these individuals becoming grossly deformed as time progressed. Eventually, Tyrael, the Archangel of Justice, had found out about the Dark Exile and traveled to Sanctuary, gathering the heroes necessary to establish the Horodrim, and in doing so, Tyrael had been given unto them 3 soul stones which had been cut from the World Stone, so that these heroes could trap the lords of hell away in order to contain the evil swelling within their hearts. However, the soul stones had been a part of the prime evil's master plan to corrupt humanity, so that they would fight with the demons rather than against them by corrupting the World Stone itself. While the Horodrim had been searching for the Lords of Hell, Mephisto had been in Aranok, where he had been ferrying demonic souls into the bodies of mummies that laid beneath the sands of Lut Gulain, which caused the undead to rise to plague the living. In doing this, however, he had given the Horodrim a clue in capturing him, where they had tracked the corruption of hatred to his Fortress of Bone, where they encountered what seems like an endless wave of undead that Mephisto had been continuously summoning. Eventually, the battle had led the heroes straight to the Lord himself, where Mephisto would feel their great hatred, even laughing at them, perhaps even mocking them as they tested their mettle against his demonic powers. But just as the odds were stacked against them, the Lord of Hatred had failed in his mission of corruption and had been trapped within the Soul Stone, which had been entrusted to the Zakarum priests, where they took Mephisto into the Temple of Light, deep beneath the earth, to be held for all eternity. Or at least, that was the intention, as while the Horodrim had been tracking down Diablo and Baal, Mephisto had been scheming for a way out of his current predicament. Eventually, Mephisto began to corrupt the High Council of the Zakarum, possibly granting them visions like how we saw in the Vessel of Hatred trailer, deluding the council, which would continue to eat away at their sanity throughout the course of this time period. However, as all were falling under the influence of the Lord of Hell, there was one who appeared appeared immune to his power, and that was Cunning, who at the request of Mephisto had been slain by the fallen priesthood. Sankey Kur had then become the new Cunning, and would become the host for Mephisto in the later periods. The council members hadn't just been twisted mentally by Mephisto, but physically as well, as their appearance had become half man and half demon. The High Council had then established the compelling orb that controlled all of the Zakarum within their unholy embrace. After many years passing, Lazarus was then sent to Tristram to serve under Leoric, which would spark the darkening of Tristram, unleashing the events of the first Diablo installment. Eventually, during the events of Diablo 2, the remnants of Aiden, in the form of the Dark Wanderer, who was under possession of Diablo, and Tal Rasha being under Baal's control, had traveled to the temple where they were led to the Soul Stone, and eventually Sankey Kur sacrificed himself to bring Mephisto back into the physical realm, and thus the brothers were reunited.
My brothers, at long last we stand reunited. The infernal day has been prepared. The time of our final victory is at hand. Like the way to hell, the evil that was once vanquished shall rise anew. Wrapped in the guise of man shall he walk amongst the innocent, and terror shall assume they that dwell upon the earth. The sky shall rain fire, and the seas will become as blood. The righteous shall fall before the wicked, and all creation shall tremble before the burning standards of hell.
What I saw then was not meant for mortal eyes.
The gate stands ready. Now, my young brother, the time has come to assume your true form. Arise, Diablo, Lord of Terror. You are the harbinger of our return, Diablo. Send forth your terror into hell.
After Diablo crossed the threshold and entered hell, Baal had left in search for the one who held his soul stone, and with it, his great power. Mephisto, on the other hand, had decided to continue his reign over the Zakarum, and to guard against anyone who may wish to pursue his brother. Soon after this, Mephisto had been confronted by the mortal heroes, where he revealed that they had been too late to stop his brother, where he stood between them and the gateway, where he tried to use his manipulative powers of influence against them, using their hatred and distrust to his advantage. But it was all in vain, as they conquered that aspect and defeated Mephisto, and he fell back into the Soul Stone's cold embrace, which the heroes took to the Hellforge and destroyed not just Mephisto's Soul Stone, but also Diablo's upon his defeat. Eventually, under Diablo's guidance, Adria found Mephisto's soul and tried to mark him for the Black Soul Stone, but as she encountered him, he fought against her with a rage unlike anything she had seen, with Mephisto taking control of her mind, but she fought back and soon had completed her goal of trapping Mephisto, where he would lay dormant inside the Soul Stone along with the other lords of hell, and soon they had merged with Diablo to create the one prime evil in Diablo's image. But after falling at the hands of the Nephilim, Diablo had fallen back into the Soul Stone. Now all the lords had been trapped within. Tyrael and his newly formed Haradrim had then taken the stone to be stored deep underground within Sanctuary. However, the former Archangel of Wisdom had become the Archangel of Death, Malthael.
No one
death.
where he had shattered the stone to boost his own power to overcome the Nephilim's might. But alas, he was too defeated, like all the rest. But unfortunately, Diablo had been released upon the world once again, with the other evils residing within him. However, over time, they had found a way to break away from him. As this happened, Mephisto had returned to his realm of hatred, but a small part of his power had remained in Sanctuary, taking the form of a demonic wolf, known as the Herald of Hatred, where he watched over Sanctuary as it transformed over the years into a more desolate world. Eventually, Mephisto's misshapen power had traveled from Hell to Sanctuary, which formed the Fields of Hatred, which would corrupt those who dwelled within them or who had traveled into the lands. Eventually, Lilith had found her way back to Sanctuary, and in her quest, the heroes of this tale pursued her, where the Herald of Hatred guided them, watching over them, protecting them from dangers lurking nearby that was unknown to them. Back inside the burning hells, Mephisto's power had still been scattered, but was slowly reforming inside of a crimson bubble. The heroes had pursued Lilith all the way to Hell in an attempt to stop her from claiming her father's power for her own, and they managed to beat her to the Temple of Hatred, where Mephisto tried to reason with the heroes, telling them if they free him, he will help them to defeat Lilith and to seal her away inside of a soul stone to be his prisoner, to make sure that she didn't return anytime soon. But Neyrel provides a second option to seal Mephisto back into a soul stone and to take his power away from Lilith, as he was the greater threat of the two, and so the heroes had left it up to her, and she carried out what she believed was to be the best decision. But as she seals Mephisto, she becomes tainted by his power. After defeating Lilith and returning to Sanctuary, the heroes found Neyrel nowhere to be seen, but she left a letter to inform them of her decision that she was to travel to a distant land to take the Soul Stone to the tomb of Akarat. Unknown to Neyrel, she was silently being stalked by the Herald of Hatred in the form of the demonic wolf. With each passing day, Neyrel had felt a piece of her slipping away. Every now and again, Mephisto would pull at the sanity of her, in a similar way to what Baal had done to Tal Rasha, providing visions that felt horrifically real as her flesh is torn and pulped and sifted and she becomes twisted into the heart of hatred. Mephisto in his prison had toyed with Neyrel over their many travels, using her suffering as his pleasure. It was entertaining to him to break her down piece by piece, almost like he was preparing her to be corrupted, to be his vessel.
Please, my child, let me help you.
Stay away from me!
Neyrel! Is that how I raised you?
No, Mother. But I must carry this burden alone. I must get to Akarat's tomb.
But look at you. You're killing yourself.
I don't know how much longer I can...
I'm here, little magpie.
I missed you so much.
I'm so proud of you. But now, I need you to give up.
No! Of course it's you! You monster! Let go of me!
Let go. No. You made a choice. And I warned you, little magpie.
And that is it for the brief rundown of the history of the Lord of Hatred himself, and the trailer for the Vessel of Hatred looks so good. Honestly, I was starting to think that Blizzard had been afraid to show some gore in their cutscenes, to showcase the more disturbing side of the demon's power. More of this please, Blizzard. We need more darker cutscenes like this for Diablo. Funnily enough, the DLC actually drops on my birthday, believe it or not. So maybe this is a sign. Either way, I can't wait to see how the Vessel of Hatred for Diablo 4 plays out. So I wonder if we will see any enemies return from Diablo 2 or any similar transformations in the future. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, then hit me up with a like. Comment what this made you think of. Are we happy to see more darker themes for Diablo? Let me know. A special thank you goes out to the members of this channel, starting with the PSEC, Hammond, Sithlord906, Killer1260v2, Stabber OP Sig, Bronze 189, Ero Solano, and Art Gains, and finishing with the legend members, Afron2371 and Michael Boss. Your extra support goes a long way in helping the channel, and if you want an extra benefit, then consider becoming a member today, as now early access premieres go out to the members first before everyone else gets to see the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back here very soon, and be sure to leave the video having a good one.